welcome to Edison Awards again.
Thank you.
You are a distinguished honoree.
Thank you.
Bracken Darrell has been with Logitech now 10 years?
11.
11 years as president and CEO. Why don't we start with where Logitech is today?
Okay.
All right, it's this little mouse company that's grown up. What's going on?
We've been around 41 years. We started as a mouse company. Actually started as a first product was documents. And then they lasted in that for about 6 months, and then they found their way to the mouse because I think HP needed somebody to make mice, and they found somebody who could innovate in there, and that was the beginning. So 41 years later, you know, when I joined the company 11 years ago, we were in about 15 or 16 categories. Now we're in 37 categories.
Wow.
Most people don't know that. We were a $1 billion company in market cap 11 years ago. We're a $10 billion company today, and you know, we have about $4.5 billion in sales. And it's a super exciting place.
So how much do you use software in the mix of the hardware? What originates the software?
When I first got here, I'll give you a couple proxies for that. When I first got to Logitech, we had about 800 engineers and about 60 software engineers. They're really firmware engineers. They made the software that goes inside our chipsets really to help products talk to other products. Today, we have more software engineers and hardware engineers, and very few of those are firmware engineers. So we're rapidly growing in software.
So your value added is in equal parts, at least.
It really is, yeah.
As a leader of an organization, what things do you do to make people feel comfortable to take chances and learn from things that don't go so well?
I'll give you a few things. So one of them was when we were talking about entering new categories, we created this concept called trees, plants, and seeds. Trees are the big established categories that are kind of slow growth or no growth or even negative growth, but they're profitable. So, and then plants are fast growing new categories we could pour resources into and just grow. And the seeds were the new ones that are harder. You know, they're starting from 0 to 1. They're really new categories for us, or sometimes new categories for the world. So when we started doing, when I first got there, was for these seeds, we would create them just like startups. You know, sometimes we'd hire entrepreneurs from the outside to do it. Sometimes move people inside. And we would, let them, we'd iterate very fast. And I met with them personally every 3 weeks, still do, 3 to 4 weeks. And then they set goals for themselves, and then they came in and just talked about it, tried to bring people in who could challenge them in different areas. And, true to your question, things usually don't work. So there's lots of pivoting in those meetings, and you have total flexibility to move in different directions. But then things also get shut down, and they get shut down a lot. And so I would say, we have between 5 and 20 new categories in development all the time, about 10 or 12 right now. I would say the vast majority of those never come out. So we give everybody a bonus when we shut one down. They're always disappointed. They're always sure they're 1 week away from getting it to the point where it's going to work. So we give everybody a bonus. We move on to new things. We never lay anybody directly off of a project like that. We want to make it really exciting and attractive to go work on those. The second maybe not example, but outcome I'll give you is that, I used to hate consumer surveys. I first came to Logitech, and I was like, we're not doing surveys, because my experience with surveys at P&G and G, the big companies, was you ran the survey, and then the survey got done, and then you got the results, and there were things you need to work on. So you then deployed that to the teams. The teams then went to their teams, and they said, here's the survey results. Go back and figure out what we should do different. And basically, the people you surveyed ended up needing to do the work to try to figure out how to make it better. So I just hated that. I felt like it was like really something wrong with this. Until, so the first survey I did, as an aside, was I only asked one question, which was, are things getting better, staying the same, or getting worse? And when everything got to staying the same or getting better, I thought, I'm not going to survey this anymore because I don't want to know that things are getting worse. And so we stopped doing that survey. And then we started doing another survey. But the survey we do today, the thing I'm proudest, actually not proud, I'm just excited about, is that it consistently shows that people feel like they can just go try things, which means we got something right. And I think I would be a fool to try to take credit for that. I think there's something about Logitech that still, this is going to sound really corny and cheesy, as they'd say in the UK, but there's something inside this company that still feels a little bit like a startup. We're 5,000 people now, it still feels that way. And when people leave, they tell you that. So I don't know what that is. Certainly we've protected it. One of the things I do though, is everywhere I go, and I have since my first week at Logitech, is every time I go anywhere at all levels of the company, the first question I ask people is, tell me what's not working. So it's okay to talk about what's not working. Because it's okay for things not to work, because of course they're not going to work most of the time. Because if you're trying new things, they don't work. until you fix them or until you change them, or sometimes they work. And then if you're lucky, you learn from that too. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. I could probably spend more time on that question with you, but I will get into it when we talk about transformation.
What advice would you give to these young entrepreneurs and help them transition from being the innovator to being a manager and a leader of the overall organization?
It's so tempting for me to be flippant about that and say, don't learn from people like me, because a great startup is a better performing operation than a big company. A big companies just strive to be more like great startups. So we try to operate in a small way. We try to have two pizza teams. Two pizzas, that's a lot of people. So the truth is, I think a great leader of a startup is a far more powerful leader than a leader of a company like mine, or most of the leaders in our company, because we do end up with too bureaucratic, too much into management, not enough into leadership. And I don't know about you, I'd rather follow a leader than follow a manager. Being a good manager matters, but it's more about values and less about processes. The processes are kind of easy. You need some meeting where you're looking back all the time and learning. You need some meeting where you're looking forward all the time and planning. And then you need lots of opportunities to build a culture. And then you need to define what you think that is. That's really most of what the job is.
What's the mechanism, the filtering mechanism you use when you're looking for superstars to join the organization? There's probably a checklist in your mind of personality types, behavioral characteristics, curiosity.
The head of people and culture, as we call it, does report directly to me. I always hated the word human resources for all the reasons everybody else. I know you would, John. On the kind of people you hire, I always struggle with this kind of question because I have probably not been systematic enough to build it in my head. But I do think you kind of know it when you see it. And now I'm going to try to do this on the fly and say, what are some of the things that I think kind of play a note that resonates so much with me? I think one of them is people who are just eager to grow themselves. Once in a while you'll see somebody in a LinkedIn profile say, I'm focused on personal growth, and those are good words. But when you talk to somebody who really is, I was just downstairs and a guy ran into me, and it reminded me of another guy that I met about a year ago, who came to see me, who's from my hometown, and he was much younger than me, and I didn't know him. And he came in, I didn't know anything about him, and he probably asked me 25 questions before I got much more than his name out of him. And I kept trying to reverse it and talk and ask him questions, and he was so good at flipping it back around. And by the time he left, I realized he ran an incredible startup. He just won Entrepreneur of the Year in New York for Harvard Business School Alumni Association, and I knew that about him after the first 5 minutes. So there's something about that type of aggressively driven people who really want to grow themselves, grow the things around them. They're just growth minded. It's like, I love that type of person. I also like nice people. I'm sorry, but there are a lot of jerks who are effective, but and who are not particularly nice. I mean, we all know the most famous one, but I don't really. I'm just not attracted to that, And as long as people can be candid, direct, and aren't afraid of confrontation, which we all have an issue with sometimes. I'd much rather be around nice people who care about other people, who really deeply care. When I first took this job, I used to go to investor meetings, and I had a chart that I would pull out either physically or virtually and say, this is what we're doing, and I would show the great design companies handpicked by somebody in McKinsey, which was Nike and Apple and all the companies you'd expect to be on that list. Johnny Ive was the ringleader of that. And then I would say, and in that chart it would show the returns of the S&P 500 and the returns of great design companies, and there was 3x. And so I was like, that's what we're doing. That's exactly what we're going to try to do. I don't know if we're going to do it or not, pull it off or not. We're going to make efforts in that direction, so we'll get better returns than an average investment. It's really about creating a world where people are always iterating to create a better experience, or trying to create something new, and encouraging that and fostering that and creating seeds and all those things that I just love to do. And then, not ever being afraid when things don't work. In fact, of course things don't work. They don't work all the time, but there's nothing wrong with that. I don't even like the word failure, by the way. I usually try not to use it. You've got to figure out, you got to get the labels off of it, like success and failure, because failure, we all know what's wrong with it. Success is in a way worse, because it comes dressed like something you're supposed to love. And the truth is, it's a very dangerous thing. I mean, you know, if you ever let yourself start to think you're successful, you'll start to protect the things you thought that you are, and you'll start to, you know, really want to be those things, and you don't want to lose those things, and you want to save face, and you don't want to. And all of a sudden, the things that got you to whatever you think of as success, I guess, they end up working against you. So I sort of think, gosh, you know, that's one of my fundamental core beliefs is success and failure are really bad ideas. I mean, it's great to shoot for impact and change and making things better, but trying to be a successful person or not be a failure are probably not good things to try to be. They're try to make it more meaningful than that. And so you can start over again all the time. And you know, I think in a perfect world, I mean, I don't know how many times I've listened to Steve Jobs give that Stanford commencement address, but a lot. And he always says, you know, guy, if you look in the mirror, you know, too many days in a row, and you don't like, you know, what you're doing or who you are, then change it. And I always think, you know, guy, you know, you've got this magical thing, which is you are not tied to anything except right now. I mean, you can be anything. You can change careers. You can start over again right now. You can leave this place and be something or somebody different, which is kind of an amazing thing that most of us don't like acknowledge to ourselves. So after I'd been with the company for 5 years, we'd changed so much. You know, in 5 years we were completely different from where we were when I got there, and we had you know, in so many different ways, and you know, I think in a way I had grown with the company, you know, and I had grown with the company, but I was sitting and thinking, I always do my goals every year across every 8 areas of my life, including work, and I was doing my goals, and I was thinking, you know, am I the right person for the job? Because if the company is this different from what it was 5 years ago, imagine how different it's going to be in 5 years. It'll be much more because the world's moving faster. So we need to change faster and be even more different. And I thought, you know, am I really the right person for the role? So then I literally thought, you know what, I'll go through the exercise. I'll write out the spec for what the next CEO should look like, and I'll see how I match up. So I did, and I matched up okay. You know, I mean, I would have been in the running for the job, you know. I would have been in the top 5 or something if a search firm went out, just because of the experience I had with the company and in the industry. And then I thought, yeah, but I'd read Thinking Fast and Slow, and if you've read Thinking Fast and Slow, and I guarantee many of you have, you know how hard it is to escape your biases, you know. And I had decided the strategies. I had hired most of the people that were on the leadership team. I had, you know, touched almost every product in some way. I mean, I really owned it. You know, and I thought, if I own it that much, can I really be objective enough to tear it apart? Because that's what's going to be required, I think. And so then I thought, nah, no way. So I decided, you know, I was 55 years old. I thought, you know, I'll go run something out. I don't need to be here. I'll stay a shareholder, but I'll quit. You know, so I decided to quit, and I decided to tell the chair the next day. But I started sleeping in decisions. You know, I'd done that about 5 years before. I realized big decisions, you know, it's just really helpful to sleep on them. So I slept on that decision, and I woke up the next morning, and it was just so clear to me that was wrong. I thought, okay, I fired myself last night. I'm going to rehire myself, but under a new contract. And the new contract is there's nothing sacred about anything that I did. Nothing. No person, no strategy, nothing. And I started making changes immediately. And including 2 of my direct staff, I let go within the next, you know, couple months. Very generously let go, and they went on to do other cool things. But, you know, I realized that they were wrong for the next act. And then I got about 3 months in, and I told my CFO, he's the only one who knew. And then he said, well, you need to tell the rest of the leadership team. I thought, yeah, you're right. So I at the next staff meeting, I said, look, it's Tuesday this weekend. I told the story, and then I said, now this weekend, I want you to go fire yourselves, and then you decide if you want to rehire yourself, or if you don't, we'll give you a great, you know, package and you'll go somewhere else. I said, now if you don't fire yourself this weekend, I will. If you don't fire yourself and rehire yourself, I will, and I will not hire you back. Because it's so important for you to transform, because I just felt like we were in one of those turning points.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
Well, I'm still at Logitech. I don't know. I'm having a ball. I mean, at some point they will, you know, tell me, sorry, you got to get out of here.
Well, maybe you could just fire yourself preemptively and rehire yourself again.
Yeah, no, I feel really good about our succession plans when the time comes. I think I've got some great people who can step into the role, and I'll go do something else. I'll never retire. I'm not wired for that. So I'll keep doing something. It probably wouldn't be a public company because I doubt if anybody let me, but I will never stop.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
You're
Thanks everybody for listening.
a dear friend of Edison
Thank
Awards.
you.
Thank you.